Greetings and salutations, everybody. It's your girl, Jackie Ray. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I sincerely hope that you guys are here because you listened to the first episode of At the Half with myself and Tanir. That debuted on Monday. It was the first kind of revamp of the podcast. But as promised, if you are here because of that podcast, which please go listen to it. The link will be below. Make sure you subscribe to that on iTunes. You can hear it in all other podcast platforms as well. But please rebuild with us and follow me on all things social media at JRayTheFanatic. So, like I said, I promise you guys some exclusive YouTube content. So, like I said, we released the video or the podcast on Monday of this week. We released it late because I just kind of wanted to do some checks and balances on it. It's still, like I said, it's a work in progress. But we went ahead and we released it, I think, like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, maybe even 10. Nonetheless, about an hour after we released it, I went to bed. So when I wake up on Tuesday, and on my Instagram, I have 32 new followers, which that's a lot for an overnight thing. And then on my Twitter, which I hardly ever use, I have 15 new messages. I didn't immediately see the messages on Instagram because, you got to look up at the little request thing. So I had 15 new messages on Twitter and something like 50 on my Instagram. So I immediately thought, okay, look at the podcast. Won't God do it? Like, look, I didn't even have to promote this. Y'all are riding with me, blah, blah, blah. So I open my Instagram. And the first thing I see, hold on, let me get to it. Jackie, your lips are so big, you don't even look like you can talk right. So maybe that should be your cue to shut up. I don't know why that's funny to me. But it is because, my first thing was like, my lips are big, but in a very, very attractive way. Not to toot my own horn, but these is natural, baby. So kick rocks. So that was like I was like, okay, that's crazy. None of this is in context, though. So as I'm reading through these messages, I'm thinking this is all coming from the podcast and or the snippet that we put on YouTube from the podcast. Now, the snippet we put on YouTube from the podcast was about who we thought was going to win the Super Bowl, and that's it. The podcast, we pretty much talked about Jason Garrett, the Super Bowl, and if Bronny should go to an HBCU. I'm like, well, I ain't really said nothing lately, so why are they coming at me like this? So then about the 13th message, the guy says, he goes, usually I don't do this, but I do like you on the Fumble, and it does seem like you're uneducated about the topic. Delontae West had no choice in the situation that he's in right now. If you speak about a situation, please educate yourself on the topic first. Okay, so when I see that, at least now I can put it in context, right? Like, okay, people are mad at me about the video I did on Delontae West, but that actually makes no sense because that video is 4 months old. At the time we put that video out, I think maybe that video got maybe 23 to 30,000 views, something like that. It wasn't an astronomically high viewership on that video. It did not go viral. So at this point, I don't know about the video that's come out about Delontae West. So the first thing I do is I go to Google and I put in Delontae West. The first thing that comes up is video circulating about Delontae West getting beat up, right? So I go over to videos because, you can click the video. So I click video. So then I see a news source that I had originally put it out, TMZ, and then the Fumble video from 4 months ago. I did find a 2015 article in the Washington Post where he spoke about his bipolar issues. He said it was something he was struggling with when he exploded on a ref during a 2008 preseason game. He also talked about a childhood that had a multitude of mental health issues, including spending time in Children's Hospital after he swallowed pills and began cutting himself. But even with that, he said his bipolar disorder was overblown and he was not taking medication for it. But at what point does personal responsibility kick in? At what point does an athlete look around and see their lives in complete ruins and decide to do something about it? For those of you who do follow me on the Fumble, you know that I love to tell people I was wrong about so-and-so. I was wrong about this. I was wrong about that. It's an article that's called Moral Responsibility and Mental Illness. It's written by Matt King and Joshua May, and it was published in Neuroethics Volume 1 in 2018. Okay, so it goes, it's controversial whether moral responsibility requires choice, control, and coherence, but nearly all agree that it requires agency. Agent believes things, intends things, and desires things. They make and revise plans, reflect on their motivations, and judge ends to be more or less worth pursuing. So basically, they have all their mental faculties, and they can judge, say, right from wrong, up or down, good or bad, that kind of thing. So it says a mental disorder plausibly excuses then if its symptoms yield an action that entirely bypasses one's agency, such that an outcome is the result of no action at all or entirely unintentional. Consider, for instance, narcolepsy. So we all know that people don't have control over narcolepsy. So on the one hand, it definitely lends itself to, you guys are right, they have no control over anything they do. Any road that they end up on, if they are truly, schizophrenic or have untreated bipolar disorder, right? So in the same article, it says, now it might be argued that such excuses are limited. Once one becomes aware that one has a disorder, one has a responsibility to manage its effects. I'm not talking about ignorance here. I'm not talking about people like Junior Seau, who, rest in peace, committed suicide not knowing the extent of his mental illness because we didn't even find out until after he passed away. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about people who have no idea, legit, no idea what's wrong. Their perception of reality is twisted because they legit have never been diagnosed and they just see the world differently. I'm not talking about those people because I believe that knowledge is power. So if you don't know better, you can't do better. But that's not what we're talking about with Delontae West. With Delontae West, we know he knows because he told us he knows. He also told us he don't want to take treatment. That's on him. And I'm not going to take it off of him. And I understand that some of y'all are mad at me about that. But I'm going to say this too. Y'all ain't giving that same energy to Antonio Brown. The same things that y'all are saying about, oh my God, poor Delontae West, we really need to help him. None of y'all are saying that about AB. If we gonna excuse everybody, if nobody is responsible for their actions when they have mental health issues, then stop saying that it's all on AB. Stop saying that. Keep that same energy. Keep that same energy. Somebody go get AB. Go get him. Because clearly he needs help. So right after you pick up Delontae West, who's not responsible for anything he does, drive by AB's house.